guys saw me doing my work with welding all together and everything. You know, got the stainless side done for the hot side with our motion race works. That's still hot. With our motion race works, wastegate dumps in there, and you know, you can see, unfortunately, there's no real way to make them look uniform because of the difference in where the tubes are, but you know, it still looks cool. And then I did our aluminum welding for our intake. So I just got the material today to be able to do the exhaust. That'll be our next setup. I'm going to have the exhaust come out the back of the turbo, you know, 120 forward and come in front of the tire, and then the wastegate is going to dump down into it right here. That's why I have the wastegates kind of positioned the way they are. It'll dump right into the exhaust. The exhaust is going to come out the side in front of the tire. Waiting for our blow-off valves from VS Racing. They're going to go right here, and then we'll have our blow-off valves mounted up on here. And that's going to be really it for the hot side turbo setup, like all that stuff. You know, then it's where we're on to doing, you know, our water system, just some general engine assembly, and then, you know, starting on the wiring. In the midst of all this, we got a bunch of parts in, like I talked about in the last episode. So I'm going to go through those parts, and yeah, I'll show you guys some of the cool other shit we got.
We went shopping. All right, so we got a bunch of shit from Motion again. And we got a bunch of other stuff as well. Originally shot this part of the episode and we had half the stuff we have now, and I looked like crap in it too, so I was like, fuck this, I'm gonna do it again. So we'll go through some of the basic stuff and go from there. First things first, we got these cool coil mounts from Motion. These guys are able to be stacked 4 coils on one side. You're able to take them, mount them right to your roll cage, and it gives you a lot more adjustability, I guess you could say, for fitting your coils in. Well, so we got our coils, we got our smart coils here. These came from Carter Motorsports. The Carter Motorsports has a pretty good deal on them. Lewis has I guess some sort of deal with them. He got the coils for them. So we got the coils from Carter. We got the coil mounts from Motion. I got some other stuff here in the Motion box. So the other thing we got from Motion is this sweet CO2 bottle. There's nothing in it. They sell a whole kit that gives you everything you need to mount the bottle, and then also a slew of fittings. So I actually like to buy the fittings separately sometimes too, but they give you these nice stainless push lock fittings. I really love these. We use these on Lewis's other Nova, and they work great. It's like I said, it's a whole kit. I think it runs like $350 for everything that's in it. It also comes with a pretty hefty length of roll of tubing. And then we also got these. They're pretty sweet. They're billet end caps for the parachute cord. They're tiny. Like, you know, you can't really tell that well what they are. But they're basically, instead of having the end of the parachute cord where it can get frayed and you start having that metal coming apart and all that, it doesn't do that anymore with these. So there's our Motion order. First part of the shopping cart. So we got quite a bit of stuff there. We're gonna be able to install and get on the car going here. All right, next thing here is our boys over at Low Dollar Motorsports. They sent us a ton of sensors. We actually already have the one on the car. We can take a close-up, show you guys how the shock sensor looks, works, all that kind of stuff. This is a shock sensor. These are for the rear. We have 2 of them. The reason why I run 2 in the rear is you can see if the car's rolling with the correct data. So you calibrate these correctly, and if the car is doing a bunch of like a list as it's coming off the corner, or off the staging line, you'll be able to tell, hey, the car's twisting. We need to do something there to fix it. These are for the rear. We already have the front one on. Pretty straightforward as far as how they work once you set them up in the Holly or whatever system you're using. We're using the Holly. We also got these sweet little mounts. What these do is you actually bolt to where the shock mount goes, and they give you a mounting point for these shock sensors. So basically, like, my hand's the shock, here's the shock sensor mounted, real nice, easy, keeps it to where you don't have to make anything crazy to make it work. Some other stuff we got in here, basically we got a slew of pressure sensors. All of his stuff is pretty straightforward, pretty easy to use. It's plug and play for most of the Holly stuff. They're basically like a SSI style sensor. So as you can see here, this one is the map sensor actually. So we have a 6-bar map sensor, and they all look about like this, pretty standard format deal. There's a couple goodies in here that I really kind of wanted to showcase a little bit here. He makes some, they're temperature sensors. I gotta figure out where the hell they are. Here it is. So this is an IR sensor. What this sensor does is we're able to put a mounting point for it in the chassis somewhere. I haven't figured out where I'm putting it yet. But with this sensor, what I'm able to do is it has a little red light like an IR sensor would. Shines on the tire. I can take the tire temperature before the burnout, after the burnout, going down the track, all that kind of stuff. I can see what's going on. The other cool part, which we're not doing on this car, I might add it in later, is you can do another one of these that shines down on the track, so you can tell track versus tire coefficient if you want to kind of get some data if you need that kind of data. But these are really sweet, they're really fast, they work really well. Otherwise, sensor-wise, what we got in here is just mostly the standard temperature, pressures, all that kind of stuff that we need. Nothing real much further there, but Brandon over at Low Dollar Motorsports, he always hooks us up, and he gave us everything we need to get this thing up and going. He actually requested that we take some of the old sensors that were on this car already off to use his, just so we could showcase all his cool stuff. Next thing we got here is, this is a PDM switch panel from a company called Switch Pros. It's a pretty cool piece of equipment, I guess you could call it. In the past, we used 8-gang switch panels. Basically, what you have there is you have 8 switches and it turns on a bunch of relays. With this guy, you get rid of all the relays, you get rid of all the stuff that goes along with it. It literally weighs nothing. You can see how small it is. It's a small panel, not a lot to it. I'm sure if you're into racing, you're familiar with these button pads. You can program these to do whatever you want via the system that this has in it, and you're able to make it either on, off, a momentary, whatever you want to do. You're able to do all that here. It comes with its own little pigtail harness. I wouldn't say it's little, but it comes with a pigtail harness, which basically plugs right in here. We're able to run this out. We can do ignition, we can do lights, we can do whatever hell we want with this to be able to turn it on. You can also program it so, like, let's say you hit button 1, it turns on all 3 if you wanted to do multiple buttons to turn on all together. Obviously, it comes with a bunch of stickers, you know, all kinds of stuff to be able to put on those buttons and be able to label what they are. It also comes with power wire, all that stuff. So there's a bunch of stuff in the box, but you know, I'm not going to get into all that. If you decide to buy one of these, which I suggest you do over a switch panel, you're looking at about, I think they're about $700, somewhere around there. Well worth it at the end of the day. So next item, chute launchers. Old style is a guy with a spring, throws a chute out. These use CO2 cylinders. What you do is you basically energize the cylinder itself, and when you hit the button, it rips the cord. To go along with that, we have this chute launcher setup. What you can do here is with this little cylinder here, this cylinder will get charged with air when you hit the green button on your steering wheel. So instead of having to throw the chutes manually with your handle, you're able to come over. Basically, you don't have to go anywhere. You have your hand on the wheel and you hit the button, it throws the chutes. The other cool part about that is if the car gets a little squiggly and I can go in and automatically tell it, hey, that shit's getting too sideways, we're gonna throw the chutes anyways, even though the driver hasn't. Apparently things are dying outside. So yeah, pretty straightforward. We're gonna get these mounted up. We already have them ready to go. So we're gonna get these mounted up, get the chutes on the back of this thing here. So one of our smaller safety items is out of the way. Next item we have that we picked up is also a burst panel. If you guys aren't familiar with these things, basically they go on the intake manifold. If it backfires, it blows this apart instead of blowing the intake to pieces. I'm gonna weld this on, it's gonna be fun. All right. A couple other little things we'll go through here real quick, and then about it for new parts. So we're kind of going to be wrapping this episode up. So I got bell housing bolts and header bolts off of, believe it or not, Amazon. Main reason why I like to get them, you know, the certain types of bolts is they have the header bolts have a flange and they're also serrated. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that, but the part number on them is 994. What is it? Yeah, 99447804. Company called Z-Whip makes them. I'm sure they're really whipping. Z-Whip also sells the LS bell housing bolts. These are the same deal. They're not serrated on the flange edge, but they're just a regular flange bolt. The part number on them is 9947800. It's nice to buy new shit instead of trying to pull it apart with whatever the hell you got laying around. And they're not expensive. I think like the whole set of bolts was like under 20 bucks. So we're running stock case turbo 400. You gotta run a scatter shield. We got this sweet black housing from FTI. Basically this goes on top of the transmission. Once we have the transmission done, ready to go, I'll show you guys how to mount it on one of the other videos, but that goes around the transmission. If the transmission blows up, at least maybe you're gonna get some oil on you, but you know, you're not gonna have pieces hitting you. Next piece. For whatever reason, when these guys sold this car, they took the damn on-off switch out of it. Why, I have no idea. But we got a new on-off switch from Moroso. It comes with its own penis. So I have to make an extendo penis for it because the switch on this car is actually in the center. It's right, the battery is right where the passenger would sit. So the switch is right above it. And then this tube is used to turn it on and off. This goes the whole way through the car, all the way to the back. So I'm gonna have to make this really long rod to get it all together and make it work. Nothing real crazy there. It's just an on-off switch. Nobody really cares, but something I'm gonna have to show some fab on at some point. This isn't really anything special, but maybe to some of you people it will be. Last item that I have in the shopping cart of madness here is a locking dipstick from Low Car. You may not really think it matters, but there's two things I see happen a lot, whether it's on the dyno or racing. One will be pushing the dipstick out. Two will be the dipstick falling the hell out of the fucking transmission. So what this stick does, this is for a Turbo 400, is on the bottom where it goes into the trans pan, instead of just having your standard slip fitting that you would have right here where it just slips into the transmission, there's a nut and you gotta bolt it from the inside of the trans and tighten it down so it keeps this guy from coming apart. Then what you also end up with is this is stuck in the trans whenever you want to take the dipstick out, instead of having to take it off the firewall, because most of you people are going to use sheet metal screws most likely to mount this up. Every time you go sheet metal screws in and out, they're going to strip. So you can leave this mounted up there and unplug it and just leave the dipstick hang when you pull the transmission. Makes it a lot easier, makes it a little bit easier to work with. The only thing that sucks about these is filling with them. They make their own special filler to go on the funnel itself. I got two more items to show, but Richie's gonna have to get creative with the camera, so let's start moving around a little bit. All right, so the next piece that we got that's pretty cool, I didn't even go over the wiring shit, but we'll do that last. Next piece we got that's cool is this mount that Motion makes for the Icon throttle body. We already went over the Icon throttle body before, but this mount, what it gives you a mount for the low car cable. So as the cable wraps on, you can mount it right here, and it's adjustable. It uses the bolt holes. You don't have to go weld your nice intake manifold up to make this work. Just bolts right on there. You got exactly what you need. You got plenty of clearance for everything. You're good to go. Last but not least, that we got going on here in the fab side of stuff, you're probably gonna want to spin around, Richie.
Oh, over here.
Is we got our exhaust merge on here. So this guy is ready to go. What I'm gonna do now is, next step is in the process here with all the fab is I'm gonna make the exhaust outlets. They're gonna flow down under the tube and out the fender. We're gonna have adjustable bull horns so we can kind of mess around with some of that downforce and such. All right, so last thing, it may not look like anything special because it's used, but we got this water tank to use for cooling system on Lewis's car, and we put a new Rule 2000 pump in it. So instead of running a water pump, we're basically using a bilge pump from a boat. I love boats. That's gonna flow water through the system and cool the car as it's going down the track. Made this sweet harness for it over the weekend, and you can see here, I'm gonna show you guys, the water pump is actually labeled with this, I've got a printer for printing on the heat shrink. I don't know if you got that or not. But it's pretty cool how I'm able to, with this new printer that I bought, I can print different color labels. I can print on top of heat shrinking on different sizes, all kinds of stuff. This is the stuff that kind of really makes, you know, your project kind of a little bit easier to work on. You know, you pull the whole harness out, you have the whole thing laying on the floor, and you're like, oh shit, where does that plug go? At least if you have labels on it, you can get through a little bit better. The other cool thing I got, and I haven't even tried this yet, this is gonna be new for this project, is this heat shrink sleeving from a company called Electroduct. What it does is it's a 2-to-1 shrinkable ratio. It's flame retardant, basically heat shrink tubing that you put it over top of the wiring, and it feels like regular braided, you know, fiber wire covering, and you heat it up with the gun, and it actually shrinks onto the wiring and makes it nice and tight, so you don't have that loose sleeve that you can get with the kind of like the mil-spec style coverings. So that's the end of this episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. We have a lot of cool stuff going on with this project. I'm really pumped on episode 3. Episode 3 is going to be, basically I'll be finishing up the exhaust side, so Richie will be able to get some information or some pictures, snaps, all that kind of stuff, show you guys what's going on there. I'll maybe do a little bit of walk around, point some stuff out. But, and I'm also going to be working on doing all the wiring. So I'm going to be like a miner and wear my GoPro on my head to kind of show you guys what's going on there, be able to give you some more footage. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and like, share, and subscribe to the Race Show.
Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.